everybody. Welcome back to I Love That Movie. I'm Patrick.
And I'm John.
And welcome to episode 2 of our podcast. Today we're going to be watching and rediscussing Short Circuit 1.
Yep. About a robot so my memories of this movie, if we're getting into it, are of it being a robot that is like a military grade weapon sort of thing. And there's a whole bunch of them. And he's number 5 in this line and gets struck by lightning because that makes everything alive like Frankenstein. And then he develops his own personality, like his microchip, whatever, malfunctions, and then goes out in the world and his adventures, like running from the government, and meets Steve Guttenberg for sure. A guy whose name I can't remember, but they talked about it in A Master of None, that he is a full-on white guy doing like brown face Indian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I knew. That's funny because one of my few memories of this movie is of that guy and his accent, and then seeing him years later as like a teenager not using that accent and being blown away like, oh, that guy.
And he has
not who I thought.
He has a super white name also, and it's just escaping me right now, but they made a bit, like there's a whole episode in Master of None about Indians being in movies now and them having real roles and being able to play themselves, and that like Ben Kingsley played Gandhi. Like right. he's just an English white guy also, and that just wasn't a thing in the 80s. There weren't real Indians in movies.
I wonder if there just weren't a lot of Indians in Hollywood trying to get into movies who were as good of an actor as what Ben Kingsley could do.
Sure. Yeah, Ben Kingsley, that makes sense to me. It's still messed up, though.
No, it is. I'm not trying to defend it, but at the same time...
Yeah, I mean, Ben Kingsley, he's great. He won, if he didn't win Best Actor, it definitely won Best Picture, and
yeah.
I have no problem with that.
If I'm trying to make a movie, first of all, I want to find names that I think will help sell tickets. Like, I'm not going to go find an Asian person just to have an Asian person in the movie. Although maybe I should. I don't know. I should probably shut up now before I say something.
No, some of it is really stupid though, because there was one of them that they were remaking recently. Oh no, it's King of Egypt, or one of those the terrible Gerard Butler Gods of Egypt. Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that sounds right.
But they made fun of that. Everyone in there was white. So, well, how many Egyptian actors are there to play in? And again, if you want to sell tickets to it, you can't say, I don't want to say like stereotypical Egyptian names because that does sound racist, but like you can't just pull a guy off the street and say like, everybody come see him in this movie. That's just not how Hollywood works.
Who is the guy who played in Bohemian Rhapsody? What's that actor's name?
From iRobot?
Yeah.
Rami Malek?
Yeah. So he is Egyptian.
Oh, okay.
And he had a role in a movie as an Egyptian. I remember seeing a tweet like, we need, find a real Egyptian actor for these movies. Funny. Like he is jerk. Like, yeah. So sometimes they do get it right.
People are stupid.
So I have a confession to make that I have been hiding from you about this movie because I wanted your actual reaction.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
I've seen, and I didn't realize it until I was thinking about prepping for this episode. And
you've only seen the second one?
I've seen the second one 100 times and love it. I don't think I've ever seen Short Circuit 1. And I don't have a lot to say about it, except I'm sure Johnny Five is alive at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he says that.
Right.
That's his
I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, he gets all gold. No, that's 2. He joins a gang and gets a mohawk. No, that's 2.
Los Locos is the gang.
Los Lobos.
Los Lobos, that's right.
It's Los Lobos. Yeah, I remember that little rhyme they had, and I could probably recite that whole thing.
Yeah, they kick your balls into outer space.
That's right. That is exactly it. I think I only remember loving 2. So I'm not sure which one we should we just do both of them?
Oh, man.
Or
I think...
Or let's just treat them as one big movie.
Watch the first one and then see, I think, if you remember anything from it. I remember less from the second one because I don't remember how the second one starts and why...
I don't either.
Why it takes place.
We could totally do 2 episodes on both of these movies.
And I haven't seen either one. I've seen both of them a lot. I saw it probably for the first time when it first came out. I think, because we kind of guessed the year, I think it's 86, 87, and I saw it, same thing, both of them 50 times, I bet, each in that 5 years. And then I haven't seen it since I was 12 or 13.
So I remember watching Short Circuit 2 every single time I could. Like if it was on HBO, I sat down and I watched it.
Yeah.
I've probably seen it 50 times.
Yeah.
I remember loving it. And now that I'm thinking about it, we're talking about doing Gremlins. I think it might be the same scenario where whatever age I was when Gremlins 2 came
You've only
out,
seen Gremlins 2.
I think I've only seen Gremlins 2. Or I don't remember. Like, I remember loving and watching 2 for both of these movies.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen the first one. But maybe not. Maybe I've never seen both.
Both of them, and I think this is sort of, it's probably a little bit true of movies today too, but definitely an 80s type of thing. Of they make the first one, and it was obviously somebody's project that they were working on for a long time, then it did really well, and they're like, well, let's make more of this shit. And they pump out the second one, and the second one is full of, like, it's strictly for children. And then it's a sillier, not a real story, just a bunch of gags in a row.
Which is maybe because I would have been less than 10
Right.
for both of these when they came out, and it was funny stuff on the screen and interesting little characters.
Yeah. Because Gremlins 2, I haven't seen that in a long time. And I think I would rather, if we're going to do that for the podcast, rather do Gremlins 2.
Okay. We'll save. I have a lot to remember about Gremlins 2. I love
Gremlins
that movie.
2, I have a lot to remember about that too. And I have very specific memories of the first time I saw it. It was like my first quote unquote date as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. Saw it in theaters, and it was a double date with an older family member, and then he left me halfway. I'll save it for when we talk about Gremlins 2, but it's a crazy story. But yeah, they do that a lot of. Oh, now we're just. I don't want to talk about Gremlins 2. We can just cut this because it makes me want to just talk about Gremlins 2.
Yeah, let's.
So
we keep doing other podcasts during our podcast, but whatever. It's
Explorers Part 2. So 86, 87, somewhere in that range. I know Steve Guttenberg is in it. I don't remember who the girl is, but there's definitely a woman love story. But Johnny Five realizes that he is sort of alive, and it's this back and forth. It's sort of like Westworld. Like, is he really? Does he have feelings?
What
is he
counts as
alive?
consciousness?
Yeah. And Chappie, the South African, whenever I first saw Chappie, I was like, this is a ripoff of Short Circuit. It's just a modern
reimagining, an homage to Short Circuit.
I guess you can just say everything is a homage, but not give it credit. I feel like if it's an homage, you're supposed to give credit to them at some point also.
Maybe they did.
I doubt it.
I haven't read any interviews with them, so who knows?
Yeah. But Chappie is basically the same story too. But I
like Chappie. I like the idea of this story. Like, it's fun.
I really liked. I think, again, despite how bad Flight of the Navigator is, I think that we are going to like Short Circuit. I think it's going to be good.
It might be
the first time.
So it'll be interesting, of course, if I'm like, oh no, I've seen this. Okay,
yeah.
I just don't like it as much as the second one, or I haven't seen it nearly as much as the second one.
Right.
Or if it's just a fresh viewing and I can see it as a 37-year-old adult in 2020 watching a movie like this. I love the style and the cinematography and the way they shot those old 80s movies. I prefer that color correcting or whatever the film is they shot on. I definitely prefer puppetry over CGI, so I think I'm going to really like it. I rewatch movies in that genre, that time period, all the time, and always think, I like this so much more. It's why I like the original Star Wars the most, is the way they did the cinematography and Yoda being an actual puppet. And anytime I don't think there's a Jim Henson movie I don't like, at least the way they made it. I mean, maybe the stories are boring, but...
Yeah, Dark Crystal is not great going back and watching
Right.
it. I've watched it as an adult and remember loving it as a kid. Like,
that one's creepy from what I remember. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I didn't watch the new Netflix show.
I didn't yet either.
But it was creepy. But it's creepy because those puppets are creepy.
Yeah.
Like the puppets in Labyrinth and all those movies that use physical effects, I generally love for that reason. So I have a feeling I'm going to like this. I just hope I remember it. I hope this is a great case of... No, I do like this movie.
Yeah.
Why have I been watching 2 this whole time?
Yeah.
So right now, you think 1 better than 2?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Because I love 2. Again, I think.
Yeah. I can't think of a single children's 80s movie that's like that where I'd liked a sequel better than the original.
You know, a lot of people say, and this is a podcast we're going to do hopefully soon, that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 was far better than 1.
Oh, I can't. No.
But no, I
There's
think...
no way.
In fact,
2 has Vanilla Ice in it.
Well, that's one of the reasons they like it.
Oh, well, that's fucking stupid. That's the
know.
dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You know what? We really... You know what will make this movie better? Vanilla Ice, said no one ever.
Well, at the time, it
No,
definitely
even
brought
at the
people in.
time.
He was super popular for a long time.
Oh, that's not what... Oh, God damn it.
I'm just saying it sold tickets. Him being in it sold toys and sold tickets and made them more money.
Rocksteady and Bebop looked terrible in that.
They weren't Rocksteady and Bebop. They were Toka and Razor.
Oh, that's right.
I remember watching it. I remember being in the theater and thinking, who the shit is this? Where's Rocksteady and Bebop?
Why is that? Why did they give him...
I have no idea. In fact, I'd love to look that up. Let's do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We need to do those soon.
We'll do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'd like to actually do that next because I've been
It's
dying
on
to watch
Netflix. The first one is on Netflix.
I own it on Blu-ray.
You're like, I own it on every possible. So this one, Short Circuit, we could not find anywhere except for on Amazon or iTunes, only to buy for $9.99.
Yeah, so if you want to listen to this with us, first of all, thank you for listening. And if you want to pause, you can buy it on there, possibly rent on iTunes. I didn't see. But shout out to How Did This Get Made and their advice. You can always go to your local library and probably rent it.
Yeah. But I would maybe pause, then come back and check out our initial reaction to it and see if it's worth purchasing for $9.99 also. Because I don't want to mislead you if it is a Flight of the Navigator scenario of like, I just wasted $10 for trash.
So I tell you what, as soon as we start the next half of this one, we'll just say yes or no will be the first word. Then give you a second, decide what you want to do. Then you can listen to the rest.
That's a good idea. And so you said you wanted to talk about just briefly our favorite movie that we've seen recently?
Yeah, I was just thinking, we're going to be talking a lot about these old movies, and that's certainly the point of this podcast. But there's, being a movie podcast and being movie lovers, let's take some time to kind of talk about what's going on in modern days in movies. Like the Oscars are coming up. I'd like to maybe do like a side Oscar special because every movie podcast does that. I don't know. Actually, why don't you guys let us know? Like we'll talk about a little bit today. But if you'd like us to discuss and give our opinions of sort of modern movies as a little added bonus to these podcasts, drop us a tweet at I love that movie _ or go to our YouTube channel. You can search for it. Make sure you add the question mark and exclamation mark when searching for us. And also, as of right now, we are searchable and findable on iTunes podcasts. So please give us a follow, give us 5 stars, or if you like it, give us 5 stars.
No, either way.
Yeah. Give us 5 stars.
Yeah, or else. I mean, we know most of you are listening.
Yeah. Mom, Dad, please give me 5 stars.
Yeah. Clearly, my brother is not going to get, since I feel the need to trash him like any opportunity. So I thought about, it's been suggested by other people that I should make fun of my brother in every episode for that to be like a continuing thing. I mean, he's not. I'm sure he would not. And I made a joke before about him being the unwanted child, but I begged my mom for a little brother too. So, clearly, I didn't know what I was thinking. I was 9 at the time. So, the mistakes we make and when we were young.
Most of these movies.
Yeah.
Siblings and these movies. So, what have you seen lately that you really liked?
A Marriage Story I loved.
Interesting. Where was that?
It's on Netflix.
Is that the one with Bill Hader?
No, that's with Kylo Ren.
Right.
Because we have to make a Star Wars reference. And I mean, you've already talked about Yoda and stuff too. But yeah, Adam Driver.
Yeah.
And Scarlett Johansson. And it's, I always forget the guy's first. Noah Baumbach, I think, is the director.
Interesting.
It's super dialogue driven. Everything that he does is about relationships and families. And they all could be plays. And Adam Driver's character, they're in plays, like they're in theater or whatever also. So I think he comes from that world, but that's really good.
I'm a pretty big Adam Driver fan lately.
He's really good.
He's quickly becoming one of those actors, and mostly through interviews I see of him where I think I really like him. He seems like such a down-to-earth, real guy that I would enjoy hanging out with and talking to. He was a Marine, all that. He's quickly becoming one of those actors where if his name's on it, I'll probably give it a chance.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson, not as much lately. She's fine.
She's good. Yeah, she is.
When she won, I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
disagree.
please don't disagree. That's a friendship runner. I was gonna say A Marriage Story is really good, but it's a fucking bummer of a movie.
Really?
It's pretty depressing. It's all about
spoiler.
Yeah. Well, not yeah, that doesn't give the end away, but it's all about marriage and ending marriage and divorce and how all that stuff goes. So it's rough at
I'm
parts.
rarely in the mood for something like that, but
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
I early in the morning viewing is what I recommend, not at late at night, sit in your room alone and go to sleep sort of thing.
So I saw The Lighthouse last week. I've been dying to see that because I'm trying to convince myself that Robert Pattinson is somebody who I should respect and enjoy, despite his choices of movies in earlier years. And I tell you what, this movie did exactly what I thought it was going to do. He was incredible. Willem Dafoe, if he isn't nominated for something for this, I'm going to riot. He was incredible. The movie was strange, of course. It's by the same director whose name escapes me, who did The Witch or The Vavitch, depending on how you want to pronounce that. I really enjoyed that. It's a slow burn, and so is this one, and it's stylized, and it's weird. It's basically, I want to say it's like a collection of fairy tales about 1800s lighthouses in New England. But there's some weird moments that are very analogous to certain things. When there's some moments that are very literal, and it kind of jumps around between.
It's all in black and white, also.
It's
right?
all in black and white,
Right.
and it's like a square.
Like the old standard.
Yeah,
size,
like it's
whatever.
not widescreen. It's
Yeah.
shot in a square. It's the best way. I don't know what it's called. Best
I
way
think it's
can
called standard
describe it.
vision or something, right?
But it's even more square than what your normal old
Oh.
TVs were like. I feel like.
Weird.
But it was good. It's good for
That description makes it sound terrible, but I
yeah.
do want to see it.
It's good for.
Do you like lighthouses and 1800s fairy tales?
I mean,
no,
it looks
I don't
miserable.
like either of those.
It's not an
things.
enjoyable movie, but if you're a fan of movie and
Yeah.
the art of making movies, this is somebody who's making movies and telling stories the way he wants to, without being concerned about Hollywood. I think being concerned about the box office necessarily. And there's just the two actors in the whole thing.
Yeah,
they're both great.
that's why I like Darren Aronofsky. It's because he does stuff like that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think really sort of Christopher Nolan. I mean, I think he is the more big budget.
he's much better at making money with it. And he
Yeah.
picks actors who will sell tickets.
Yeah, but I
Not
think
that
he does
Willem
that too.
Dafoe
He
won't,
has a vision, I think, that is different than most other people. And I think if given the choice between the two of them with Christopher Nolan, he would rather make a movie he likes versus making money. He just happens to pick things that also everybody else wants to see. Whereas lots of times Darren Aronofsky makes stuff and people are like, oh, I don't like this at all.
Yeah, so the guy who's making, and I wish I should have written down his name, who made The Witch and The Lighthouse, I'll watch anything he makes, but I'll probably watch everyone once, and I feel like I'm going to have the same reaction to every single one, where it's like, it was incredible, don't necessarily love it, but it's really good.
But you really like this one.
I really liked aspects of it. Like, the cinematography is incredible, the acting is incredible, the story's fine, but like,
You wouldn't rewatch it necessarily?
not immediately.
Interesting.
It's a little bit of work. I don't know. Check it out.
Yeah.
I've got it.
I mean, I say that. I kind of feel the same way about A Marriage Story, that I really liked it, but I saw it once and that was good. And it's not super enjoyable. There's not just going through your popcorn. I always think of the Eddie Izzard stand-up where he's talking about the difference between English movies and American movies. Like A Room with a View, you sit there and there's just people walking into rooms and going, oh, hello, Sebastian. And like, if you're trying to eat popcorn, you're like, oh, fuck this. But like American movies, it's monkeys coming out from space and they're shooting the guy and blah, 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 and just like crazy action. You're just throwing down your popcorn. And yeah, both of these movies, I could see just you're sort of sitting there and wanting to cry, but not crying or whatever.
They're not popcorn movies.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I guess we'll call it here, and we're going to go watch Short Circuit, and we'll be back with our reviews.
Sounds good.
See ya. Okay, so we're back. We just watched
Short
Short
Circuit.
Circuit, and I definitely hadn't seen it. I think that was the first time I've ever seen that movie.
And we both say don't pay $10 probably to watch it.
Yeah.
It was still good, but I think you can find, if you have time, go to Walmart and find a DVD or a pawn shop or something. I don't know. It's not worth $10 because you can only buy it also, and I don't think it's worth multiple viewings.
Right. If at the time you're listening to this, you can't get it for any of the streaming services anywhere, HBO or something, that's kind of your call. The movie was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a memory of loving this one. I felt it was kind of slow.
Yep.
It took about an hour to get to anything that was super entertaining, and it was kind of the same gag over and over again. But the characters were likable, and
Definitely better than Flight of the Navigator. Gets
yes,
into
much
stuff.
better than Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah. I think that the overall story is better than Flight of the Navigator. The acting is better. It had, I guess I was right because you had never seen it before. Steve Guttenberg is in it. I almost said that it was Ali Sheedy, but I thought it was just another 80s person who looked like that. I thought she would have been too young.
Some sort of discount Molly Ringwald.
Right, exactly. But it's Ali Sheedy. It's G.W. Bailey, which is the trainer from Police Academy, the guy that Steve Guttenberg always gets into it. So they obviously thought those two guys were funny together. So put them back playing like the exact same roles.
Right.
Steve Guttenberg is just the like goofy, doesn't take his job seriously scientist in this instead of a police cadet. And G.W. Bailey is the exact same asshole, hard ass, gets mad at him. Like I said while we were watching, I was just waiting for him, or thought, I wonder if during shooting he messed up and yelled Mahoney at him. Like this guy that I could never remember his actual name, and I had to look it up. It's Austin Pendleton, and he's the lead scientist or like business side of the scientists, and he's also in the original Muppet movie. And he plays sort of the same kind of character, that he's a middle management bad guy that really is a nice guy just stuck in a bad role or whatever with his company. But I thought he actually does the best acting job in the whole movie.
Do you have the IMDb up there? Is this a PG movie or PG-13?
I think it's PG, but it says shit and multiple times.
It's kind of a horny movie. Like there's a lot of sexual jokes.
The Asian character is extremely, or the sort of Indian, whatever he's supposed to be. He is really gross. It's PG.
Yeah, I don't think you could make this movie with this type of humor today.
No,
and have it be PG. I mean, the robot hit on her in the bathtub and says, "Nice software."
Talking about her tits.
It's not that bad, but it's definitely. It was like, oh wow, I don't know that I would.
And
my kids make like quoting these jokes.
No. And Fisher Stevens' Indian character, he says something about having an erection.
Oh yeah, he just flat out says, "I have an enormous hard-on right now."
What did he say? He didn't say hard-on. What did he say? He said something weird 80s type of thing too. I have an enormous, like, it wasn't pitching a tent, but it was something like that where
he shouldn't have said it. That's what I know.
Yeah, and he says things throughout the entire time, like, let's go pick up chicks, and is giving Steve Guttenberg like dating tips throughout all of it too, and he's horny the entire time.
As is Johnny Five, who we learned doesn't get his name until the very end.
The closing moments of the movie, he just decides, I don't like being called number 5. I want a name. How about Steve or Joe or Johnny? He was listening to a song earlier that kept
twice
talking about
that movie was playing Who's Johnny or something like that, and that's obviously where he picked it up.
We learned the director also did Saturday Night Fever and War Games, and there's a long dance sequence where Johnny Five is learning to dance. He's just watching Saturday Night Fever on TV and copying the moves from that, which I'm sure that it was easy for them to get the rights to do.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton. It was fine. I think I like 2 better. I haven't seen it in a long time. I think we should do 2
I think so
down
also.
the road at some point. Because that's the one I remember loving.
It's good too.
There's more in 2, from what I remember, that are similar to the things I liked about the first one. Like there are moments in the first one I was legitimately laughing and kind of chuckling to myself, and it wasn't too cheesy. And
just like Flight of the Navigator, it takes just way too long to get through all the setup.
Yeah.
I think things just had to be maybe spoon-fed a little bit more to people in the 80s. Like we get the concept pretty early into it, and then, like you said, it just keeps going back to the same well of jokes over and over, where Johnny Five, after he acquires knowledge, like he speed reads an entire encyclopedia set, dictionary, then he watches TV all night, and then he's, for the most part, a fully functioning person.
Yeah,
and
that's 15 minutes of the movie. You could do that in 2 minutes of the movie.
The Ali Sheedy, they're in Oregon, and she is way ahead of her time as like a vegan animal rescue. I mean, she's kind of a crazy person.
Yeah,
she has a skunk sitting there on her counter while she's cooking dinner. But yeah, she thinks he's an alien and adopts him. Yeah, then the rest of it is just trying to hide Johnny Five away from the government. Which that's another thing we talked about during watching the movie, how many 80s movies where scientists or government agencies are posed as the villain or bad guy.
If it doesn't make sense for it to be the Russians, then they just immediately go to our government.
Yep.
Because for a long time, Russians were the bad guy, and then it was Middle East, and now we're kind of going back to Russia being the bad guy.
Well, in this one, they talk about marching the units, whatever they're called, before the robots down Main Street, Moscow, and like scaring the Russians into like surrendering or whatever. Like, we'll just parachute these guys in and like take over Russia, which is sort of laughable now, because especially at how easily one smart robot, Johnny Five, is able to completely outmaneuver the other four whenever they like have their battle scene, and he just like goes Ewok on them and captures them in like rope traps and throws mud in their face, and then go ahead. What you were saying about for being $2 million a piece? That
11. They were $11 million a piece,
yeah.
and every single one of them came with an off button, a bright red off button, dead center on it. So I don't know if they were going to redesign that before they sent them into war, but it seems kind of silly to give them a clear off button.
Yeah, one of them, I think Johnny Five just throws mud in his face and then just turns him off. Like, all right, you're done.
Nice 11 million 1986 money.
Yeah, 1986, man. There's no telling what it is now. I was thinking of other, if you can think also to put on Twitter or on the comments below on YouTube, of other 80s movies that have the government or scientists as bad guys. We thought of War Games, Howard the Duck, Flight of the Navigator, this. I felt like I thought of another one also, but at least those four. I'm sure there's plenty of others.
Yeah.
But and right before we got started, I remembered also the cute little butterfly scene where Johnny Five uses his eyebrows to flutter like the wings, and like his interactions with animals and with him learning like how a child learns is pretty cute.
This whole movie for me was just like, oh, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it started out, and then you got a little too slow into it being interesting, and then you're immediately like, oh, that's cool, there's a live robot and they're doing some stuff and it's fun to watch them learn, and then that gets boring pretty quickly, and I was looking at my phone and I was kind of waiting for it to be over, and I was already thinking this is just fine, and then it got kind of good again when it was him and Steve Guttenberg hanging out, and he was trying to convince himself that he was alive or not alive. Make that 30 minutes of the movie instead of 5 minutes towards the end.
Yeah.
And then there's the typical ending with the government against him, and he pulls a fast one on him, and he makes a duplicate robot and sends him out. And that's what they think they destroyed, and at the end they drive away.
They're running away to Montana.
So which means nobody. So first of all, they let those two people just drive away.
Mm-hmm.
Like they let the two main characters
No questioning.
chasing this entire time. They're not arrested. They're not in any trouble. They're just, yep, you can go ahead and take your truck and go. Mm-hmm. Nobody looked in the truck for anything.
Yeah, it is a clean getaway. Again, scientists or government or whatever being bad at their jobs is what entails the movie to continue to go in lots of times. The whole reason that Johnny Five is electrocuted and turned and made alive, it wasn't exactly like Frankenstein, but close enough. Like he's hooked up to a machine, and the guy says, hey, you should take that number 5 off the generator so we don't lose our jobs. And I was like, I'll get to it, whatever. Like it's clearly storming everywhere, and he doesn't do it fast enough, and that's the whole reason we have the movie.
I don't really have a lot. I'm sitting here trying to think about like what's some funny stuff I could say about my experience with this movie. It's just a movie.
There are a couple of funny things I wrote down, mostly just weird things that they said. Again, one of the times, I think during the lightning storm, a guy yells, Jesus H. God.
Yeah, Jesus H. God. That's a good one. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that before.
No, that's not a saying. And then G.W. Bailey, the like asshole guy, says, this little fart of a robot is giving me the red ass. Which is just such a strange sentence all around.
I think I'm going to add that to the repertoire. I think I'm going to start saying
this little, it's giving me the red ass.
I don't even know what that means.
I've heard like chaps my hide, which is, I guess, sort of the same thing.
That was sort of a gag with the Indian character where he kept screwing up cliches.
Yeah.
Like, let's pound the cement instead of hit the road or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Or no, he was talking about getting a job. Instead of saying pound the pavement, he said stomp the sidewalk or
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. He kept messing up.
Which is something I actually do all the time. Like just one word off, screw up cliches.
Instead of saying he's going to go to the John, like the bathroom, he says, I'm going to go to the Jack. And he's like, Steve Guttenberg keeps correcting him.
Right.
But then they make a joke.
Fun. Like I enjoyed that.
And they make, so
funny
he's
writing.
being, like his accent is over the top, like Apu from The Simpsons, crazy. Steve Guttenberg asks him, so where are you from? And he says, like somewhere else in California. Bakersfield. He's like, no, your ancestors. And he says Pittsburgh. And they do like a double take, and then that's it. So they don't explain his accent, and you can't tell, like, it makes it seem like he's being serious, that he's not telling a joke. But then where's that? It's weird. It's got a lot of weird racial stuff in it too.
It was pretty funny.
It was
Some
funny.
Of that stuff really did make
It
me
is.
laugh.
It's funny,
It's
but,
dumb,
it's
funny.
strange. And you're talking about the test. What's that called? Where you test to see if a robot is
Turing test.
Turing test. Yeah. So his Turing test is to like tell him a joke and see if he laughs, and then he tells a sort of racist joke to make him laugh. It's about.
I think this was all just okay in the 80s.
Yeah.
This was normal.
I think so. But the joke,
well
like
into the 90s.
the punchline, is basically about Jewish people being cheap, and then Johnny Five has to think about it for a second. Then he starts laughing. It's like, oh yeah, they're real cheap. Like I could see the wheels spinning, and then that's why he realizes it's a funny joke. Oh, it's yeah. Again, things that
I
would
miss the
definitely not
80s.
bad. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have movies like that again.
I think there's things like that in Gremlins also, where the neighbor is talking about the Japs and stuff, where he's
Yeah.
talking about Gremlins and the machines and like this is what we had to do in World War II, and says some crazy
There's got to be a sweet spot where the storytelling of movies and the cinematography got better and they figured out how to pace things. Although so many movies now are still paced terribly.
Right.
But it still had the sense of humor. Like, I feel like that's Anchorman, and that's so many of those movies from that genre where they could tell a good story that was funny and move it along, but still have jokes that you were allowed to say back then.
I still want to go through with our top 50 list and break it down by decade or like by 5-year increments or whatever, and see when the most of my favorite movies were and like the actors that were in them. Like I know Ed Norton and Brad Pitt and Matt Damon are in a bunch. Yeah. But look in by years, because I think that there will be a lot of those in that
late
90s
to
yeah.
late 2000s.
Yep.
I feel like is the sweet spot for we're
Pulp
allowed
Fiction,
to be funny. It's not
Usual
too,
Suspects, Fight Club. All of those are sort of in that same.
in the comedies too, like Old School and Anchorman, and there was, I don't know, 6 or 7 movies in that 10-year period. I feel like that were most people's favorite comedies because they were funny, and I feel like you can't make those movies today, which I get why, but also like let's have a sense of humor every now and then.
I'm trying to think of something else recently that's come out that has, I guess, Judd Apatow still makes some of those type of movies, but they did that Sausage Party.
They don't do as well as they used to.
Yeah. I wonder if that's just like aging out, that people that go to movies.
I'm trying to think of the last PG-13 live action movie that was a comedy that I loved.
Yikes.
Because there's some rated R ones. When they're rated R, they kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, like The Hangover and things like that.
Yeah,
they're a little
PG-13. I can't think of a PG.
I mean,
comedy.
The Hangover is still more than 10 years old, and it's not like it was great. It's, I bet it's 12 years old. Interesting.
Which is sort of good. I appreciate a good rated R. You know, you don't get too many rated R comedies anyway.
Yeah.
And they're usually better, but I don't think this movie would have been PG-13.
Yes. Yeah.
Strangely. Or they would actually, this movie wouldn't have been made. The studios would have come in and said, rewrite those jokes.
Yes.
Make them all fart jokes.
And we'll hire an Indian actor.
Yeah. I don't know if they would have done that still. We're still figuring that one out.
Yeah, I definitely would. And I don't think,
Here's the thing. There's no reason for him to have been Indian.
No. I mean, just for the jokes.
Yeah, for humor. So
it wasn't a diversity thing.
It was racist.
Yeah.
Like, it was, hey, Indians are funny. They sound different. Let's put him in this movie and make him kind of stupid. And
it's all, the entire movie is different layers of a fish out of water story. Johnny Five is a fish out of water, like a robot learning it. The Indian guy is a fish out of water, like in America learning it. And Steve Guttenberg is a nerd. Like they talk about that he doesn't even remember how to drive.
Right.
He's been locked in the lab for 5 years, hasn't driven a car in 5 years, he said, like forgets to turn on the headlights. So he's a fish out of water trying to identify, like talk to, hit on whatever, the Ali Sheedy. So everyone does not fit into the world which we all live in. They're all outcasts.
I was thinking, watching Steve Guttenberg, he's such a likable guy, and they also cast him for that reason. And his character was supposed to be likable. He was supposed to be a good person. He wasn't a bad guy. And maybe it's kind of silly thinking too hard into this and breaking down the meaning behind it all. But why would he have gone along with making these war robots? Like it didn't actually make sense for his character, other than for the money of it, for him to have created all these in the first place. Like he knew he was making war robots. But his character was very anti that altogether. So
he said they were designed for something else to begin with, too. He said these were originally
still very much a part of the process when they were blowing up tanks at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And didn't seem to have too much of a problem.
He sold out.
And it took 75% of the movie before he was really on board with Johnny Five being alive and like supporting that. He was still trying to bring him back and turn him back into what he was supposed to be.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that may have been ego too, of thinking, because he says nobody could, like, how could they rewrite this program in the language that I created, and he's convinced that he just so scientific. That's how I took it, that it wasn't an evil sort of thing, that he just only knew of them as being robots and that they weren't capable of doing, which, I mean, it's a pretty ridiculous concept also, of like that Johnny Five can't have feelings all of a sudden. And when he does like a Rorschach test with him also, and is completely impressed, which we saw Johnny Five do at the very beginning with Clouds, and then he puts blood tomato soup, whatever it is, on a newspaper, and then
sure it's just ketchup. That's
yeah.
what it looked
Oh,
like.
was it just ketchup?
No, but it was supposed to be tomato soup, but it
really
looked like
thick.
blood.
Yeah, it was gross. But yeah, and then he's like, oh, lists all the different organic, like scientific names for soup, and then there's not scientific names of soup, but you know what I'm saying? It's like tomato, organic matter, whatever, and then says resembles butterfly, bird, maple leaf, and then that helps convince Gutenberg. So then he puts him through this. They stay up all night with Gutenberg like quizzing him, and this is kind of stupid. For him to tell the joke and then all of a sudden be convinced, Johnny Five has a sense of humor because he ties his shoelaces together, and Steve Gutenberg trips over him, and then he's like giving this look away and whistling the like, oh, like how did that ever happen? So why would that not be more of a test of him thinking outside the box, or like having a sense of humor? There's
Ex Machina, better movie.
It is. Wait, what? Yes. Clearly, Ex Machina.
I'm sitting here thinking, was this all a prequel to Ex Machina?
Sure.
Is the Indian guy, does he turn into the other guy later?
Oscar Isaac?
Yeah,
it's Oscar Isaac grown up.
Character.
Oh, no. Yeah. So now we're definitely going to be calling Ex Machina Short Circuit 3 from now on. Again, I'm disappointed. I think this is going to be...
so this is the first time I'd seen it.
Sure.
I can't say I loved it before. I'm not going to say I love it now.
I don't love it.
It's a movie I would watch with my kids. I wouldn't mind them. Like, I wouldn't mind my kids liking this. I don't want my kids to watch Flight of the Navigator,
because you would have to sit through it again. Because again, I don't have any kids now, so my kids would not be appropriate to watch this until they're 10 or 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't have to watch it again for 8 years or 9 years. Sure, I would watch it again once probably, but yeah, I would not say.
If I see this on HBO, I won't stop to watch it. It was fun.
Yeah. I guess the main memories or positive associations I have are just the name Johnny Five, and again, it's another movie that's a cute idea. I didn't try to think of ways in which I would fix it. It really does have all of the bones to be something good. Just shorten down those scenes of some of them and make some other scenes longer. And then Steve Gutenberg is not in the sequel.
Yeah.
And so I don't even remember how the second one starts, but clearly they didn't go to Montana and become a weird family.
I feel like he was delivered to, what was he in
Ben, I think is
Benjamin. That's right. He says Benjamin all the time. I think he gets sent to Benjamin with a note, like almost the way you send a kid to their other parent to tell them like they exist.
They just put him on a plane and
yeah. I don't remember exactly, but he shows up in New York and starts hanging out with Benjamin. That's all I really remember of the beginning of the next one. But neither of the main characters from this one are in that.
Right.
I don't think anyway. I know Gutenberg's not. I can't remember if she is. I don't think she is.
I don't think she is either.
I remember liking. Of course, the whole point of this podcast. I remember liking 2 way more than I enjoyed watching the first one today.
Right.
And
yeah,
I think
we'll have to watch it.
If I watch 2 again, I would go. This is a more fun.
I think it'll probably be more fun. And again, you can't have the second one without having the first one, because if you just a robot shows up and is sentient, that doesn't make any sense.
But this goes against a lot of people's opinions that sequels are never better than the original, or so rarely better than the original. And this is actually a movie that I hear mentioned in those conversations, like Short Circuit 1 better than 2, Gremlins 1 better than 2. I don't know that I'm going to agree with that after watching all of them.
I've recently watched the Gremlins, at least Gremlins 1. And I'm going to say that it was better than 2.
Really?
Yeah. I remember 2 being so silly, and it's like a cartoon instead of being a real movie.
I liked it. I was a kid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's an electricity gremlin.
That's part of the spoiler for like why mine is such a good story when I saw it in the theater. So, all right. Well,
some fun facts we have here.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a couple more things. Tim Blaney, who is the voice of Johnny Five, actually has had a pretty great career. He's the Pug in all of the Men in Black movies. He's been in a bunch of video games. I guess he's pretty much a voice actor. I don't think you'd recognize his face. But he's done a lot since then.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and this movie was shot in the same small town in Oregon that, what was it, The Goonies? There was one other one. It was made in 1986, same year, which we did not know, as Flight of the Navigator.
Kindergarten Cop was the other movie.
Yeah, Kindergarten Cop. So yeah, same time as Kindergarten Cop and Goonies. That's interesting. I wonder what was going on there. Maybe just the topography. I don't know why they'd want to do that.
Yeah. It was a $15 million budget for the movie.
15 million? That seems really high for 1986.
Yeah. 1.4 million was just on Johnny Five.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
How did it do?
40 million. Yeah, it cost 11 and made 40. And Gutenberg was too busy doing, what was it? There was another Police Academy sequel, then 3 Men and a Baby, the Cocoon sequel, which was higher budget. Like if that was...
Man, he owned the 80s.
Yeah. I wonder, so, yeah, he did. How many movies would you think he was in? Would you guess that he was in the 80s?
Just in the 80s?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess he did 3 and less than 25.
That's what I would say. Yeah, more than 20. And I bet they all did pretty well. I mean, I think there were 7 Police Academy movies.
I don't think of him as being a superstar, but like he should be.
That's the Stonecutters joke.
A legend, you know?
In The Simpsons.
Is it?
The Stonecutters, like the secret society that Homer is a part of. They're, we do. And as Who Makes Steve Gutenberg a Star is one of those. Right. Because he is like he's fine and he is just likable and not, but I wouldn't say he's really good. He just plays the same kind of guy and everything.
Him, I assume, but he's so damn likable that's like put him in any movie and I'm sure I'll like it.
And he goes against type in the second season of Veronica Mars and plays. He's not a good guy. No spoilers for people that haven't seen Veronica Mars because it's fantastic and you should watch Veronica Mars.
Sure.
I know it came out 15 years ago, but
I'll watch it right after I watch The Wire.
Yeah. So I hate you.
All right, I don't have much more.
Nope.
We'll make this a short one. Short Circuit, do you love that movie?
I do not love that movie. 0 for 2.
I don't love that movie. 0-2.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Again, this one I really thought that I was going to say that I loved it also.
This is fun, man.
I know.
This is working out so interesting.
Fucking bummer podcast.
So I think we decided based on the intro we're going to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles next.
Yep.
I'm very excited for that. This is without a doubt by probably 10x the movie I've seen the most.
Right.
I'm pretty sure my parents had to buy me a second copy of the VHS because I wore through the first one. There was a solid 2 summers, maybe 2 full years in a row where I watched it like once a day, maybe twice a day.
That's crazy.
But I haven't seen it. I'm 13, 14 years old, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe even younger. But I've seen it 100 times at least.
We're starting to get into what's supposed to be the intro of the next
That's
episode.
It's called a teaser, John. Get them excited for the next episode.
And that one is on Netflix for sure.
Yeah.
We already have it queued up. So we'll get that out and put that out next week for you all.
So I guess thanks again for listening. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 100 subs so we can have our name be the actual link. It's going to help us out a lot. Give us a follow on Twitter and say hello at @ILoveThatMovie_. Leave a comment everywhere, and we'll have more social media coming. I'm going to be putting together Facebook and a Discord channel. And as we hopefully are building this community of people who are into this, we'll have a chance to all hang out and talk more about this stuff after the podcast come out.
Yeah, and again, the podcast is on Spotify. Or we're not sure about Spotify.
It's on Spotify if you have a link to it, because I've seen it, but the searching for it isn't bringing it up yet.
Okay.
There's some propagation time for that, so it should be up soon. And right now, if you search for us on iTunes, you'll find us. You can just look up I Love That Movie, and we're the second one with the question mark and exclamation mark.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Nice software.